Hello, it's Mike Cattermole speaking from Channel 4 Racing and at the Races, looking ahead to the Derby for Stan James. Perhaps it's about time that the 2000 Guineas winner followed up in the Derby at Epsom. After all, when Nashwan did it 20 years ago, he was the first since Nijinsky 19 years before that. So, can See the Stars, the hero at Newmarket, do it? Well, he must have a great chance. In the Guineas, See the Stars and Delegator were the only horses in the field that travelled like champions, and in the end, See the Stars was a thoroughly convincing winner as he stayed on strongly in the closing stages. As a half-brother to Galileo, winner of the Derby of course back in 2001, the portents looked good for his staying the extra half mile. However, Galileo was by Sadler's Wells and See the Stars is by Cape Cross, who's more of a speed influence than stamina, although of course he sided Ouija board the Oaks winner a few years ago. Trainer John Ox has been reluctant to commit one way or the other, at least in public, about whether See the Stars will stay, but Mick Cannan's comment about the colt being a relaxed individual certainly augurs well. Just over 2 lengths behind him in the Guineas was Gan Amras, who ran a tremendous race, one who certainly has a middle distance pedigree. He's by Galileo out of a Darshan mare. He was outpaced when the tempo quickened going into the dip, then his stamina kicked in and he stayed on very well indeed to finish a neck in front of Rip Van Winkle in 4th. Now Gan Amras is sure to improve significantly when stepped up in trip, and he's trading at very attractive each-way odds. With doubts about Rip Van Winkle staying, after all he's out of a mare by the sprinter Stravinsky, it's hard to imagine him turning the form around with Gan Amras, let alone See the Stars, although it has to be said that his Guineas preparation was held up after he'd bruised a foot. And of course, he's Johnny Murtaugh's choice ahead of 5 others, also trained by Aidan O'Brien. So Murtaugh has turned down Fame and Glory, who's unbeaten in 4 starts and who romped home in the Derby trial at Leopardstown. What he beat there is debatable, as Morayan, trained by John Ox incidentally, was in 2nd and was never really travelling. He certainly stayed on well that day and has a pure 1.5 mile pedigree. Black Bear Island, meanwhile, won the Dante in taking fashion at York, coming from last to first. But the first 6 were covered by only 2 lengths. And why isn't the 3rd Sans Frontier running here? Jeremy Nacida clearly doesn't think he's up to it, which is another reason not to get too excited about the York form. That also doesn't say much about Kitewood's chances either, the Godolphin colt of course being 5th at York, and Crowded House of course was a bitter disappointment there back in 8th place. And of course Brian Meehan's form isn't much to write home about right now either. Golden Sword very much had the run of the race when winning the Chester Vase from, shall we say, the conservatively ridden master of the horse. Debussy appeared to have no excuses in 3rd, and in fact the British Challenge looks headed to me by Montaf, trained by Mick Shannon, who's a firm fan of this Monsieur colt, who was far from fully wound up apparently when chasing home Age of Aquarius in the Lingfield Derby trial. Age of Aquarius was not far behind Fame and Glory at 2, so Montaf could run a decent race. Southeastern, meanwhile, trained by Willie Haggis, the D-Stakes hero, and of course Willie won the Derby with Charmit all those years ago, clearly needs to improve, but is almost certain to anyway. In conclusion, I think the Guineas form looks the strongest on offer. I'm convinced, in fact, of that. In fact, over this trip, there really shouldn't be much between See the Stars and Gan Amras, but at the prices, Gan Amras looks great each-way value.